Welcome to the Orange Hammer Podcast. My name is Corbett Storick. I've been a licensed general contractor for 8+ years, specializing in new construction, renovation, furniture building. I'm the son of an architect and an interior designer, and I've been surrounded in this industry since birth, watching all aspects from concept, design, build, punch list, and of course, all the problems that come up in between. In my time in Durham, North Carolina, I've noticed a significant gap in knowledge between homeowners who need work and the people who do the work. On this podcast, I hope to break down the process of homeownership from the perspective of both the homeowner and the contractor in an effort to help raise the knowledge of homeowners about their homes and the construction/renovation process. I hope you enjoy. If you're enjoying the Orange Hammer Podcast, or if you have a topic that you want covered, or have recently done a project, please contact the Orange Hammer Podcast. The Orange Hammer Podcast is on Instagram and Facebook. Please like and subscribe, share on whatever platform you're enjoying your podcast on. Also, check out our YouTube channel, The Orange Hammer. The Orange Hammer Podcast is proud to be brought to you by CRS Contracting LLC for all your construction and handyman needs, new buildings to renovations, furniture building, EV charger install, or even a TV mounted. You can call me, Corbett Storick. It'd be my pleasure to help you. You can find me on Instagram at CRS Contracting. WSDG, the Walter Storick Design Group, specialists in architectural and acoustical consulting. Check out WSDG.com. And Taylor Bragg, for all your artistic needs in all mediums. You can find her on Instagram at brag_about_art. That's brag, BRGG, with 2 G's. She's the fantastic artist behind the Orange Hammer logo, and she did my fantastic table painting of my podcasting table. All right, everybody, welcome to the Orange Hammer Podcast. Today, special guest. First time we have 2 people in the studio at once. Previous guests, Stacy Slone and Chris Hawks. Thank you both for coming. How are you guys doing today?
Doing good. Doing well.
Doing great.
Happy
Pleasure
New
to be
Year.
here.
Happy New Year to you both. Yeah. So we were kind of talking about 2 very drastically different and drastically interesting subjects before we started recording. So let's just jump right into them. One's more scandalous, so that's more fun. So let's talk about that. So Stacy, what is going on? I know that there's some raw land, some scandaling, either the buyer, the seller, the both. So bring us in.
Throw it in. Okay. So, we are having issues with people claiming to be the owner of land, raw land around this area. And I got very close to a closing with a scammer that I thought everything was legit on the up and up until closer to the end. And he was going to walk away with $75,000. He had his wire funds ready. He had everything ready. He had the social security numbers. He had driver's license, but he didn't live here. So I never physically saw him in person. I got a little hesitant the day before closing on a couple things. So I told the attorney, what can we do to make sure this is the actual owner? Like the numbers matched up with the owner. And fortunately, the guy signed you always have to have a deed signed. He signed the deed and it was not the same as on the title. That's how they caught it, because the title signature, which was back in, the original owners purchased it in 2003. So that signature was not the same as what we found when he sent all his documents back.
Okay, so I want to back up and ask you a question. If you're John Doe and you want to legally, not a scam, you just want to sell your land,
mm-hmm.
what's the process to get your land listed in the appropriate way?
The appropriate way is you sign a listing agreement with whoever the agent is. A lot of times, owners don't live here, okay? You could have land that you own in Kentucky and you want to sell it, but
Sure.
You don't live there. You're not going to drive there. There's no reason for you to go. But until these scams started happening, honestly, we went by a listing agreement via online, and then we would take pictures, put the sign in the yard, and do the rest of it. We
So
were
there's
hoping.
no more confirmation of. It sounds almost dumb to say because it's such a duh to me, but there's not even a confirmation that the land is real. Like somebody could just say, I have land and I sign this to be your person. And,
Right.
they could just, I could go on Photoshop. I could type up a deed. I could make up a fake map, a plot. I mean,
But you don't even have to do that.
Yeah.
But if someone has stolen your identity, that's where they can get the furthest along. If they don't have your social security, no, they're not going to get very far. If they don't have certain things, because the attorney will definitely ask you for those items.
So the fraud that you were living in last week or whatever this was recently.
Yeah.
This was more than simply trying to profit off of a false land sale. This is identity theft. And then they chose that was the thief, I guess, or criminal, whatever the word may be, was like, okay, I've committed identity theft. I've got this person's identity. What's the best way to get some money?
Exactly.
Let's pretend that I'm selling land that they're selling. So they were just impersonating someone trying to sell their land and get the wire transfer.
Well, they were impersonating them, but they were also now giving up land. So the person that's being scammed now loses their land because the deed is in the new buyer's name. So had it gone through and like the land had been, so you caught it. Okay, so we're good. We caught it, but it's not always caught. Okay?
No, but this is now a hypothetical.
Yeah.
Like, let's just say that like
I don't ever want to be.
It had actually sold and like got through a closing attorney and all that, and the money had exchanged hands. Mm-hmm. The person who legally bought the land had no idea that the seller wasn't who they said they were. They are not responsible. So they just bought land.
Right, that's right. The buyer's not responsible. However, it is now a fraudulent situation. So what I'm being told is an attorney would get involved and have to see how they could resolve the situation. I've also heard that the owner can be completely out of that piece of land. And just think if it was like 80 acres. I'm just going to give an example of it could be a nightmare. I almost was in a nightmare situation. Fortunately, it was caught. No money was exchanged because remember, you have due diligence money that comes out. This particular one was going to close in 7 days, so we had no money up front. So everything was
right, and it was
good.
land. So you're
But now it has completely. I ended up having to tell the Association of Realtors the situation, and they said this is nothing new. Like, it has been going on recently. Probably for the past year, it's been going on. So realtors out there, if they're listening, do whatever you can to make sure it is not a scam. And one thing that I'm telling people that are calling me is that now we have a protocol where the attorney gathers all the information and we will not give you a certified check. They'll either hang up on me or I'll never hear from them again. And I get about 3 calls a week.
And these are scams, people calling in saying, I want you to sell my land. Mm-hmm. And then when you explain that they won't be getting a wire transfer, they'll be getting a certified check, they realize this scam won't work.
Don't
and they just
hear
hang
from
up.
them again.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a very easy and quick way.
Now it is.
Now you caught it before a scandal. Mm-hmm. Before a scandal completed, I should say.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But what about those new agents out there that don't even know what to ask? In fact, I was one of those agents that just assumed I was talking to the owner. That's the big issue.
Chris, do you run into anything that could even compare in the rental world?
Yeah, a couple of years ago, we had a number of people that would take our listings and they would pose as the landlord, and they would they would write a contract and lease the property and collect the security deposit, first month rent. And it was amazing. And they would Photoshop our pictures. It was absolutely amazing.
So they're taking your Like they're taking my house that I've given to you that you've listed on westonwoodall.com or whatever it actually is. They take screenshots of your website. They Photoshop out Weston Woodall and they put janedoescam.com.
Yep.
And then they'll accept a security deposit in the first month's rent, and then they just vanish, or they're
gone. They get that money, and it's never happened to us. We've had a bunch of people that were scammed, and they told us what happened, where they Venmoed the money or they sent the money, and that money's gone
right off the bat. If you're Venmoing. If you're Venmoing a deposit, that's a sign.
Multiple red flags when they were telling us.
I love Venmo,
Zelle.
but
I heard Zelle is a bad one too.
Well, and the other thing was it was like a $800 a month lease when it's really $1,600. So people just jumped at it.
Oh,
okay.
And there was just so many red flags.
So it was too. So right off the bat, if you're looking for a rental, if it's too good to be true, it is. Like there's a reason that every other studio or whatever it may be, there's a reason every other comparable rental is within $100 of each other. And if you find one for half the price, it's either horrible or it's a scam. Like there's got to be a reason. Like, you are literally the professional who I ask how to rent, where the price point is.
Yeah, it was really bad. We used to use CodeBox where they could access. They'd send in a picture of a driver's license and give us information. They could get a key, and we did away with that because of security.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like a lockbox.
Kind of like a lockbox.
So now how do you do it?
They have to come in person.
Okay, so they've got to come in, and then you'll give them a key or give them a code or give them a key or either one?
Give them a key. They have to put a deposit down, driver's license, everything.
So it's almost like test driving a car. It's like you can do it, but we need a copy of your license because if you wreck that new car, we need damages. Yeah. So Weston Woodall hasn't necessarily been, what's the word? A victim to the scam.
No.
You've just been like party two, and then getting, unfortunately, probably some rather frustrated potential renters after they've already lost hundreds of dollars.
It was very close, but because we're out there, they'd either Google the property or something, and they would find our number and call us, and we'd say, no, we're the agent here. Don't pay that.
Yeah,
Don't Venmo that money to someone else.
I'm listing it at $1,600. The $800 one is a scam. Yeah. Okay.
But in the mortgage world, what used to happen is if these scammers would hack into somebody's email, and then they would change it just ever so slightly. So instead of westonwoodall.com, westonwoodall1.com, or just a slight that you would never pick up on, and they would send out an email and say, the wire instructions have changed. Wire the money here.
That almost happened to me with like the need for some sort of insurance or something. I have, the Northern Trust company, or the Northern Trust Bank is like the bank I use, and then I got like a letter from like the Northern Trust Bank like of America. It was scam, but they just like the closest they could get to the Northern Trust without actually being the same. And it was like, we see you have a mortgage and you have to do this, and you didn't do this. And I immediately called the actual people and I was like, hey, it's weird that I would get this kind of letter. And they were like, don't you dare shred that. Like, don't even, that's like, I was like, okay, good to know. But yeah, I mean, you just have to double check everything now.
Triple check now
nowadays. I mean, the world of spam mail turned to spam email, turned to these robocalls. I mean, it is nuts.
Yep.
Just the world of people attacking you in every way that they could try. Yeah.
It's so frustrating.
It's very frustrating.
Yeah. And to speak about the rental side, when I put a new listing on the market, I'll get at least someone calling me saying, hey, I saw this on Craigslist for rent, but I see your for sale sign. What is it? And someone is taking all my pictures and my house and taking off the for sale and putting for rent, and then grabbing that money through, especially if it's a vacant house, because no one's there to tell us, all these I had one, the owner lived there, and they said people keep driving by, and then someone said that it was for rent. And one, it makes us look bad. And two, somehow they're scamming these people. And if the price is right, the person will send the money, and it's a total scam. Craigslist has gotten better.
How are they even? I don't even understand. Like, what could they even be scamming? Just out of like a security deposit?
What are they scamming? The security deposit.
The security deposit.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the first month rent.
Some of
And
them,
a first month's rent.
That's right.
Okay.
So it could be
$3,000-$4,000.
exactly, and depending on where that house is, and they target everyone. We all have had it happen.
And think about 5 people that they scam for that one house.
for the one house.
Right,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
right.
$20,000 and they're gone
Right, and they just poof.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
and they could be in another country.
anywhere. Yep.
Can't
Yeah.
remember who told me that someone called in on Weston Woodall on someone else's listing, and she lost $1,700, and it was a for sale house, and it was not my listing, but they ended up getting $1,700 of this poor girl, her money, because she was trying to find a rental and found it on Craigslist, and it was for sale, not for rent.
These are not small amounts of money. This is
No.
this could be devastating for somebody who's trying to rent, who's living paycheck to pay. I mean, that would be. Is there a resource of like a lawyer that specializes in this that we could shout out, that people who are victim to this could?
For us, it was Facebook Marketplace is where all the listings were going. Everybody, they would put
Okay.
them on Facebook
Oh, really?
Marketplace.
So avoid Facebook Marketplace for real
I think
estate.
they finally stopped. It got so bad. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, like Facebook said
Facebook,
you can't list this
I'm
here.
pretty sure they shut it
Well,
down.
you can put it on your personal, but you can't put it on your business. They
Okay.
did shut that
Yeah.
down.
Okay.
So, but it can go on your personal, because I still put my listings on my personal.
Okay.
But they shut us down
you're
on
just,
the business.
I mean, because we're Facebook friends, that's different. You are just, as Stacy Slone, you're doing a post, and what you happen to be writing is, come check out this thing that I'm listing. That's different than like
for the houses.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
different than what he's talking about, I think, which is like when you go to Marketplace and it's like through Marketplace you have posted something for sale, you've set a price, you've set a location.
Right.
That's different than just a Facebook post where you could have wrote, you know, happy birthday to me, or go check out this pizza place, or look at this house for sale. Like, you can choose whatever you want to post on your Facebook page versus the Marketplace.
But the market, right? But
Yeah.
but the Marketplace, they did shut down the business side of it.
They've
So
completely.
yeah, you can't
Okay.
list a rental. You can't there were prohibiting. So you have to go through the channels. That's where the scamming is less. I think it's a lot less.
Oh,
'cause
it's cut down dramatically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they really kind of put a halt on that. But yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah.
Do either one of you know of like somebody in the real estate law world who could help potential people who have, you know, I hate to say it, been dumb enough to make this mistake? Or are they just out of that money? I mean, is it, at the end of the day, is there even a legal recourse? I personally have no idea. To me, it's like you kind of got screwed
It's a
by
shot
just
in
a
the
lack
dark.
of
Yeah,
intelligence.
Finding that person.
You can't find the person. That's the problem.
That's the problem. But
You
they're
mean the
saying
person who ripped
the
you off?
scammer.
Like, how do you
Yeah.
even? You can't. You need a human to take to small claims court.
right.
You
Right.
can't. And yeah, okay.
And they
Yeah.
have all these track phones. They have all the ways to where you'll never find them.
Yeah.
Like, how are you going to find them?
So it just has to be. It just has to be. We have to look. We have to go to the other side of the coin and just be that much more diligent. And that just means
Yeah.
you've got to go to reputable people if you're renting, like Chris, or if you're buying, like Stacy, and if you're putting something for sale, you really have to. Well, I don't know. I mean, how does the person just putting their land up for sale make sure that that doesn't happen? Because I mean, you just said if had this happened, the person would have lost their land and not gotten paid for it.
It would have been in the new buyer's name. And then here's the problem. They don't even know this happened. They've got a piece of land, not a house. They have a piece of land. How often are they checking that deed?
Very little time. Raw
Exactly.
land. What's the check?
They
yeah.
said that it takes about 5 to 6 months for that owner to realize that they got scammed, that is not their property anymore.
So how can you put like a freeze on it, like or some way to protect
I don't
that
know,
landowner.
but what happens when the new buyer builds a house on that piece of land? Like, there's so many what ifs, and I don't know the attorney. I do know one that I've been talking to that this all happened with him, and he kind of got involved a little bit with it because it was, my thing was, I paid for pictures, for a sign, my time, and I would have loved to have found the scammer, like, just to say, look what you've done to not just me, everyone, and they don't care. They don't care.
No.
Well, obviously you don't give two Fs if you're ripping people off for $2,000 a security deposit at a time for 20 people a house. I'm just making up numbers, but you're in it to get $200,000 and vanish,
But one of the ones that I got this week, I made a comment about the attorney. And I said, well, we have so much fraud now that we're not going to get past it. We're going to make sure that nothing's going to be fraud. And he goes, oh, I guess I'm out, and hung up on me. Total fraud. I mean, it was total.
Whoa, wait. You said that was an attorney?
No, I told him, the person that called me, I told him, we're not going to get past this. The attorney is going to go through everything. So if this is a scam, you're not. And he goes, well, I guess I'm not. I guess I'm out, and he hung up on me.
Oh, once he heard that his scam wasn't going to go through,
it wasn't going to go
he
past
just said,
the
I'm
attorney.
good, and click.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa.
Yeah, and he kind of made like a, like a joke, like, okay, I guess I'll go to the next sucker, and I've asked my office how many people have gotten phone calls, and not many. I don't know why I'm getting so many calls.
Well, you're a busy agent. You're out there.
It could be that they, but wouldn't you think that they go with someone?
Inexperienced.
All my stuff says 25 years in the business. Wouldn't you think they'd go with a newbie who wouldn't think about different things? I just think it's just a whole shady business right now that somehow I've gotten involved in, and on the buyer side, I've had investors say, I don't want to spend more than $3 million. Well, you don't get those calls every day, right? And so I'm trying to figure out what's their score. What are they going to get, because they're not going to get very far. It's a seller. I could see them I could see that fraud, because $75,000 for a piece of land, it's always land. It's never a house, always land.
So title insurance, or is there anything?
Yeah, you get title insurance. Yeah, but the title insurance only protects the buyer.
There are more hoops to go through when it's a house. That's probably why it's land. Anything that happened
prior to, the buyer's protected. So see, that's a huge thing. But that's.
I'm just curious how my friends that own land, how they protect themselves.
Right, exactly. Like if I was about to call you to sell some land, I'm like, okay, well, how do I? Now I'm scared.
Yep.
Like, wait a minute.
I'm scared to sell anything. Yeah.
Well, I mean, somebody like me would go to a closing to sell my land.
You're local. Mm-hmm.
I'm local. So would that be the moment where I'm like, where is he? Or even if he showed up, I wouldn't know he's not who he says he is. How would I even?
If you were the buyer?
No, if I'm selling land and I go to Kevin's office for the closing,
right,
and John Doe scam artist walks in, how would I know he's not the guy?
Well,
even if he showed up.
Well, yeah, but as the buyer, I would think, what would they have to gain from getting to that point? Like,
oh, you mean he'd realize the scam wasn't?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's the seller. It's really the seller that is, unfortunately, the victim in the whole situation.
Or maybe you just didn't understand. This is a hypothetical where I'm selling the land.
Right.
I'm the seller.
Well, then the buyer should show up, right?
Yeah, because the scammers, they don't own the land. They're pretending to be the seller.
Yeah,
you are the actual seller.
You are the seller.
You're good.
Oh, okay. Maybe maybe I have it flipped.
Yeah, the guys that are calling me are telling me they're the owners. But they're not really the owner.
For a half a second, I thought the people who are scamming are like pretending to be the buyers.
No.
I got it now. So they're calling up and they're pretending to sell land that's not theirs.
It's not theirs.
A guy owns land, he actually lists it legally, and then someone calls in and is just pretending to be the guy who owned it. And he's like, it's my land. Yeah. Give me a wire transfer. And you go, we're not doing that. We're doing certified checks. And they go, once they realize a certified check means an ID and all those checks, they go, well, shit. And they go scam over. Yeah. So they're trying to find realtors who are either too busy to notice or don't mind using the wire transfer part.
Or just don't know the right questions to ask, so they think they're going to get through, because if you have raw land, there's no inspections on a house. They're not bothering you for it, right? They're just wanting to close, and it's a quick close. It's usually pretty quick. This one was 7 days, and he was so excited. He's like, let's sign on the dotted line, and we're good to go. I had multiple offers on that property. And what if, it's just the what ifs. But he got all the way to the end or very close to it. And
it's very scary. I mean, obviously, as the person selling the land, it's terrifying because your identity could have been stolen in a much bigger way. Yeah. And then there's... land varies in value from literally $1 to billions of dollars, but any amount of money to be lost or to be out of your land, either way, it's terrifying. And then for you, I mean, this is obviously you could very easily hold up a bunch of ways to prove that like you didn't do anything wrong, but it's still your rep and your reputation, and clients could hear about this and be like, well, I'm just going to go to anyone that's not Weston Woodall for fear that Weston Woodall did something, or like, so there's real consequences beyond just that one time. You said something like $70,000 for this land. There's real consequences beyond just that $70K.
Yeah. And the lady that we found, and she said, I can't believe, she goes, they were looking at their credit cards. They were looking at things that you would typically think someone would steal from you. She said, I never once thought someone was going to take my land. Like that wasn't even on her radar because they stole her identity. She said, never thought anyone would take my land. And so we saved that, and she still owns the property, and that's all good. But
if my land ever comes up for sale, it's a scam. Like if you didn't hear from me, just so we're clear.
Yeah.
Like if it wasn't from me directly, it's a scam.
It's a
scam.
Not
like if you see a Schley Road, wrong. Report that.
I forgot you're going to be out there. You can be out by my house. I'm out that way. Yes, that's right.
These scammers are so good because they'll go buy a car with a fake cashier's check, and if you don't go to the bank to verify that check.
Yeah.
It happens all the time. They'll show up, buy a used car. Here's a $6,000. It looks like a cashier's check. Nope.
That's a whole other.
So it's just not a real check?
Nope.
So it's just typewriter, or they're just really good at Photoshop?
They have a printer and they can print checks. It happened. It just happened in my neighborhood.
The courthouse makes me go get certified checks to buy land at friggin' auction, and you're telling me that they are baloney? This is I'm upset.
I'm just saying anybody with a good printer can print a check that looks like a Wells
I'm just
Fargo
saying they're telling me
Bank
that
of
certified
America.
check's the only way I can buy something at an auction because it's so bulletproof, and you're telling me someone could just print one and go buy a car.
No, let me back up. What I'm saying is somebody selling a car, go to the bank and verify that that's a real cashier's
exactly.
check.
And don't give
to
them,
the bank that
don't
issued
take that check and let them take that car. Yeah.
Wait for it to clear.
Yeah.
Well, wait to make sure it's legit. Yeah.
Right.
It's funny you say that. When I bought my new Ford, the guy took a regular check. And I mean, like, not even from my company. I hand wrote him a personal check for the entire cost of my truck and drove away.
Yeah.
So, like, it was fine, and they didn't come after me because there was money in the account. But, like, I'm realizing that I could have just started driving to Mexico, and, like, the check bounced in the morning, and I could have vanished. They would have been out of
I don't know how you could register a car. When you do that, I don't know how you could go register it.
I don't know how it was allowed either, because when I bought my first truck, now, let's be clear, I have not bought hundreds of vehicles, and I don't work for a bank or a car dealership. But when I went and bought my first truck in California, I walked in with like these statements to like prove that I could pay for it, and like a letter from my like people who were managing my money that said like, hey, we're moving the funds. It'll be there in like 2 to 3 business days. And you know, all the stacks and stacks, like a whole envelope. And the guy was like, we don't care at all. We're not giving you the truck. Come back with the money. And I was like, okay. And the truck literally like sat there. I had signed a thing that said it was mine. And he was like, we don't care. You can't have it.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you could bring us 30 of the 35K or whatever the number was, and you still can't have it. Like, and I was like, okay. Like, I had never bought a vehicle before. So I was like, you know, I'm not going to argue with you. I have the money. It's just like days. So no big deal. And then I get to North Carolina, and it's like the old school Ford dealership, University Ford, next to the ballpark where they've moved, next to the ballpark. And I'm thinking it's going to be the same thing. And I'm like, do you need like wire transfers? It's going to take a week or blah, blah. And they're like, do you got a check? I was like they're like, yeah, like a regular check, like write it to University Ford. And I was like, you're joking. They're like, no, not at all. We're good. Like, we're old school. I was like, okay. And I don't really know, honestly, how they like registered it or any of that.
Now, how long ago was that? They may change their tune. Nowadays, there's so much more going on out there.
That truck, 2015. So it's not like that long ago, but it is long. You know, now Tesla, on the other hand, like completely different situation. They are all online, first of all. And like before I could even like, so first you just put like $100 deposit with a regular old credit card on the internet. And then when it's like, you know, your car's like either being built or halfway being built, you start to like do it. And you have to either like set up your financing completely or pay for it in full completely on the internet. Do your insurance beforehand, your license, your register, like everything. And it has to be like flawless. And they just won't deliver you the car. So like when I went to Tesla to actually pick it up from Tesla and they handed me like a freshly polished, fully charged new car, this one lady was like, I need you at this desk for 4 minutes. And they went over like 16 documents that I had filled out that they printed out. They were like, confirm, double check, boom, boom, boom. This is all for me. Sign here. Here you go. Have a great day. And like it had a plate, not a temp plate. Like they did everything. But it still goes to show that like they wanted everything in full, confirmed. Like if I sent that wire transfer and something was wrong the next day, they're not giving me that car. So I don't know who's right and who's wrong. Obviously, it would have been easier to scam that Ford dealer.
Right.
We're not those people,
Tesla's
though.
right. I mean, I think the protocol should be going through all those channels. And it's a pain in the butt, but man, it's worth it to not lose something.
Yeah,
you know?
it was a little annoying during. I look back at it as we discuss it right now, and I'm like, it was nothing. It was a couple of clicks. It was easier than like putting in your passport information on a flight, you know, international flight or whatever. Speaking of Tesla, you came in hot, Chris.
I
came in hot, flying in hot about retrofitting townhouses with EV chargers.
Yeah.
This is hot off a HOA meeting last night.
I mean, this is what I do, baby. Let's get into it.
It was disgusting.
Yeah.
We didn't even have the mics on, and Corb was, ooh.
Yeah, I brought out the whiteboard. I was
Yes.
like, let's go. Let's go. So, so let's break it down. Just we got a fourth member in the studio, Willie Bear, coming
Willie's
on in.
Here.
We used to lock him out,
Willie.
and he'd whine at the door, and you couldn't hear it on the podcast, but we could. So we've decided he's a member.
Yes, he
bringing the
is.
cuteness factor up
Yep.
from all of us.
Absolutely.
So jumping into EV chargers, you walked in and you said Tesla, but I really think you meant EV. You just saw my Tesla, and I have the little white Tesla brand charger.
Yes.
But if you're, I guess just for general people listening, if you are thinking about an EV, charging is something that you will eventually have to consider. You know, some people live in an apartment building. They have no choice. Some people charge for free at work. Great for them. But most, dare I say, probably going to be needing to charge at their house, like me. And then to do that, there are really there's technically 3 options. One of them is trash. So if you just plug into a regular outlet, a 110 outlet, if we're using technical terms, like you plug your computer, your TV, your phone charger, Tesla gives you a cable. You can plug it right into there, and it'll take, 5 days to charge your car. It's very slow. It's like 4 miles an hour. So if you have a 300-mile range, 4 miles an hour takes a really long time. It's not practical. It's technically good. It's fine. Like, I know people who do that, but when I dig deeper, they tell me they get free charging at work. And I'm like, so you're not really doing that. You're charging for free at work. So really the next option is that cord that Tesla gives you. There's the part that goes into the car. It's like a long 20-foot cord, and then it goes to a big box that says Tesla. And then from there, there's like 8 inches of cord that goes to the wall. You can yank that out of the brick and put in a new 8-inch piece to the brick. $35 adapter from Tesla, and all of a sudden, instead of plugging into a regular outlet, you're going to plug into the giant 4-prong outlet that you see your dryer plugged into. That's the 220.
220.
Now, the 220 can do anything from like 20 to 48 miles an hour, pending how big of a circuit breaker you have and what kind of car you have. So, like, I've got the lower end Tesla. I could put the circuit breaker that could get me to the moon, and the car will not accept anything faster than like 32, 34, something like that. If you have the very expensive Model S or Model X, they can take, I think, the 46 mile an hour. But you still need the appropriate size wire to get from your breaker box to the outlet or the Tesla charger, and then you need the appropriate size breaker. So they want something around 50. I usually put in a 60 because then if there's any like surge, you're covered and it won't trip. And then for electricians who are listening and cringing, I just apologize. I forget. It's either 8, 10, or 12 gauge, but it's a very thick wire, not the standard one for your outlets that you need to run between those things. So there's like tiny, basic rundown. From your circuit breaker, you need empty breakers so that you can put in a 2-slotted 60 amp. You need thick wire from that to wherever you're going to charge. And then you're either wiring that wire to an outlet or to the charger you buy from your company. So right now it's Ford, it's Rivian, it's Tesla, it's Nissan. Those are really the only ones. Actually, I think Mercedes now has one. I'm not sure who's selling home chargers. I think you can get a universal charger from companies that I can't remember the name of. Tesla gives you for free the adapter to use non-Tesla chargers. So there's like the basic rundown of, how you go from nothing to some sort of EV charger.
Yeah, that's great because it's been a common theme at just about every meeting in the last couple months at HOAs.
Yeah.
That they know it's coming down the line and they're trying to look ahead at how they can go ahead and implement charging stations.
Now, HOAs, we're going to assume that you're talking about an HOA of something that's already built.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because if it's not built, this is very easy. If we've got studs, if we don't have sheetrock, it doesn't matter how long of a run it is. It's so easy, it doesn't matter. But it's when you go into, and honestly, I've only put these in finished homes because, John Doe bought a home 10 years ago, bought a new Tesla. How do I charge it? Oh, where's the circuit breaker? Where do you want to charge? How far in between? How do you get there? Am I crawling in the attic? Am I crawling in the crawl space? Is it 2 feet to the left or is it 60 feet away? Are we going on the outside of your house? And I've literally done all of those examples. I've had to run, the wire in a conduit outside of a home. I've had to run it up in an attic and back down into a wall. I've had to run it, from a shed where the panel was into a house, then down into the crawl, over, up into the garage. That was like $1,000 in labor just to, 80 feet almost of just getting the wire crawling, penetrating 3 or 4 different walls just to get a wire through. So there is no easy price. To circle back to the question you asked me off the air of like, how much does it cost? Because it's all about the run, as they call it. For an HOA of townhomes, it gets more complicated because, and again, not always, but in my experience, townhomes, you've got no crawl space because most of the time it's slab on grade. And then there's no gap between them. So like the middle houses, I can't even put something around the outside, unless we start running the long way around everyone else's house. You know what I mean? Like
That's true. Like one without a garage, because lots of townhomes don't have garages.
No. Now, what if they have lights throughout the community? I wonder what those are.
Oh, yeah. Could they do charging stations like in one section of the neighborhood or something?
I mean, okay, so the answer is yes, anything is possible. Like, obviously, with enough money, we'll build the Taj Mahal if you want.
True.
Yeah,
right.
That's true.
So, I mean, the answer is yes. But, I never have thought of that.
But one day that's going to be a special assessment at a townhome community. I guarantee it. Yep, that's going to be the new thing.
Right.
But if you could put in 4 or 5 charging stations throughout the community, and then they pay for it that way, it's not split up amongst everybody. It's just the person that's using it.
So that's probably more realistic. Is
right.
Like for example, the charging stations that are at PNC Arena. And the charging stations that are at Tobacco Road, downtown Durham, those are run by a company called ChargePoint. They're nationwide. And you download a free app on your phone. You put in a credit card like, you're ordering Grubhub, and you just walk up and scan your phone. It unlocks it, and you plug it in. So, like, the HOA community could easily be like, we called ChargePoint, and we're putting in 7 of these at the clubhouse. And if you... somehow they could register that like owners of the HOA could get it at a discounted rate, or, the HOA would have to talk to ChargePoint directly.
Would that be open for outside people of the community to come charge their cars there?
Yeah, that would just be a public charger that anybody with a ChargePoint app, so that becomes an issue. Like, what happens if I live there and I go there and 7 people who just know that they are there are using them because they know they can walk 5 minutes to the sports bar or whatever. I'm just making it up.
Yeah, but they could you have to have a code to be able to get in, to be able to do whatever.
Yeah, if it's a gated community, that solves that problem.
Well, or a code at the station to where nothing's going to function unless they know what that code is. And that would be outside, but the HOA would... There's ways.
I'm sure there's
you
you put a QR code sticker somehow that gets you in. Like, I'm sure it's doable.
That's gonna be
But that is gonna be.
It'll be the new. It's coming. Yeah.
New builders should be putting that run in the house.
And they are.
Wire.
Yeah. They are.
Like we do it. Mm-hmm. That our houses are not in areas nice enough for Tesla drivers. Let's just be honest. What? You laugh. Tell me I'm wrong.
Well, I mean, but I see Teslas in those areas because of who is moving into them.
Look me in the eye and tell me that Tesla owners are renting the house from me.
Are you not seeing some nice cars, though, like on the street?
No, I am not.
Okay.
I am not seeing nice cars parked at the houses where the houses I own.
Okay.
And it's a good point because there's not one EV in this community. And not because of the chargers, but they mentioned, they brought it up last night. Right. They said we're a middle class community. Like we can't afford an EV
to have that.
Yeah, we can't. Yeah, that's their own words. But they know in a few years.
We're putting in the run because we think about selling the house in 10 years. Mm-hmm. So in 10 years from now, like the last 3 houses, I have made sure that there is an appropriate wire from an appropriate 60 amp to a 4-prong 220 so that anybody could get, the the fastest you could get, other than going to like a supercharger, which is not, residences can't have that. Just so we're clear for everyone's going, you can charge faster. Yes, you can charge 200 miles an hour at a supercharger. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about residential charging.
Yeah, yeah.
But I have put those, and mind you, run specifically to the driveway for this purpose, because it is going to happen one day. I hope to be renting to people who have Teslas, but we're just being realistic about who's renting my houses right now.
Yeah,
they're not Tesla drivers, and this is not an insult.
True.
It's just just true.
You're right.
I
am thinking of the streets now that you're on. Yeah, you just said Braxton, which I forgot about that one, and I know.
I wish I had your facial expression recorded. Like, think she believes.
Take it back. I'll take it back.
And again, I want in 5 years.
But in 5 years, I think that maybe not Tesla, but electric cars will be going up and down those streets. And I think that you're smart to do that now.
Well, because the equilibrium will meet. People will the house. The people that can afford that house that line will change along with the affordability of EVs.
Yeah.
Those two lines will change, and I hope that X meets in 5 years, and then I can rent to Tesla or EV people for 5 years till we sell the home.
Right.
But again, it's the comment before about like, is the house built or not? When the house is gutted, so to have my electrician, who's, mind you, for listeners, replacing the whole panel, running a new wire, everything as if it was new construction, when we're already doing that. To add it, this is like $200, people. Like when everything's open, and I'm just like, run it raw to a 220, not even the fancy charger. Just put a box with an exterior waterproof box, as if you're plugging in an RV.
Sure,
it's nothing. And then I get to tell you, put it on the listing. EV charge capability.
Right.
Like that could be the difference between somebody's like, oh man, I found 3 houses that are okay, but that third one's got a charger. That could be the difference. Yeah. I hope it will be the difference, But yeah, I mean, obviously I'm biased as a Tesla owner and Tesla charger installer, but if you don't think the EV revolution's coming, I think you're wrong. It's on the way.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's definitely on the way.
Definitely.
Do you guys have a charger at Weston Woodall for public?
No, I tried to get Bert and Kirk to install one, and they said we didn't have enough parking spaces.
Lies.
And now we're starting to see a lot of electric
lies
cars.
And slander. I have parked at your office. Lies and slander. Lies and slander. I've parked my Tesla at that office.
Cover your ears, Bert. Cover your ears.
Yeah. No. Open your ears, Bert, and let me put in a Tesla charger. Come on, man.
Yeah, but I think we only have part of the parking lot, right? I mean...
Well, then that means you get to cut the cost with the other tenants.
Yeah, that's true.
Just, and put in a universal one, put in a charge point one.
My thought was they'd get off the highway, they'd come charge their car, they'd be looking at they'd look at our listings, they'd come in and talk to us. And we Stacy would sell a home.
Honestly, you should. Thought. I think it's a minimum of 6, but you could put superchargers in your parking lot, and then you get all of a sudden that parking lot is on, the countrywide map of superchargers.
Yeah. No one will see the charger when Bert upgrades to that new Ram truck that's coming out that's 3 rows, that's electric. Then you will see him out there.
Is that not the ugliest truck you've ever seen?
Corp will be out there installing a charger for
I'll roll up in my Tesla Cybertruck and be like, this is the correct vehicle, but I'll charge for you. Yeah. Oh, man. That Ram, I always, when I think of Ram, I've always been like, they're the company that's going to hold out and be the gas guzzling, like Hemi monsters.
But what was the one you showed us? You showed us
Rivian?
Oh, the Rivian.
Yeah. That is cool.
It's got a special place in my heart, that truck. Oh, man. You don't
like
that one?
Nice one.
Yeah. Oh, man. It's so cool.
Our friend just got the Hummer electric.
Really?
Yeah.
Have you been in it?
No, not yet. But he's got a Raptor F-150. That's what he has now. He's going to the Hummer.
Oh, so he's got like an order in for the Hummer.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I have a reservation for one of those Rivians, but they you know, kind of like Tesla. It's like make to order. They don't just like pump out 40 of them and then drop 400,000 of them. So it's like, I think I'm like 3 years away on some insane waiting list, and it's like
3 years. You might not want something like that in 3 years.
Well, it's refundable. You know, the reservation is refundable, fully refundable. So
it's pretty slick looking though. If what you showed me was
if
nice.
something new comes out, or if they're like surprise, it's 40 grand more than we advertised. Cancel.
Then yeah.
Or if Tesla ever actually gets that. So I've had a Cybertruck reservation for most of COVID. I feel like I got on that as quickly as I could, despite it being the weirdest looking vehicle on Earth.
Have you been in the Ford?
The Lightning? No, because from what I understand, I own a Ford Lightning. Mine's gas. It's just an F-150, and I will never own another Ford, even if it was a free gift. Like, I just can't. Yeah, the truck is in fact just a truck. Like, if we're just gonna be honest, like I had a Tundra, and other than the gas mileage, I don't have one negative thing to say about it. It's the greatest truck I ever had. Unfortunately, I totaled it, and I got that Ford because of the configuration. It allowed me to have a full back seat and a full bed, which you can't get with a lot of other trucks because Ford has multiple wheel base options, whereas like Tundra's like, this is the frame. You can have a bench seat and a full back, or you can have the half thing in the mid, or you can have like a full cab and a short bed. And I was like, no, so I went with Ford on that regard. But it has broken in the weirdest ways, in the most inconvenient times. I have been so inappropriately treated by Ford that like I will bash them all day, even on air. And I have said only positive shout outs here. The Ford service department at University Ford, you guys know and see me. I am 6'5". I usually wear bright orange. I am very loud. I bought a Ford truck in cash at Ford and then continued to get it serviced at Ford. And I would walk into that service department with an appointment and not even like a hello. No one would look up from their desk. I walked in one time, I stood in the middle of 6 cubicles for 5 minutes, and then eventually, like pretty annoyingly loud, was like, who do I talk to? Can somebody help me? There's no sign that says service co here. I have an appointment. I dropped off my truck. I don't know if you remember me. I've been here every 6 months, bought the truck from right there, from that guy with the glasses. Like, what is this? And that was when I got like a phone call after from the manager, and I was like, no, you guys are terrible. Like, what is this? This is baloney. And he was like, yeah, you're not the first one to tell us this, blah, blah. And I'm like,
oh, wow.
I'm like, well, why don't you train the 5 people you have sitting in the service cubicles? And then I lost it when brought my truck in, service, fine. And then I have 2 vehicles, so I don't drive the truck if I don't have to. So it sat probably a month, honestly. And then I drive to Atlanta, and I'm driving back from Atlanta. Now, what's the NC to Atlanta? 4.5, 6, 5, something like, it's like 5 hours. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm 2 hours back into my drive. So I'm 3 hours away from North Carolina, 75 miles an hour on the highway, and my temperature gauge, which hasn't moved in 7 years or whatever, all of a sudden, no, not temperature, the pressure gauge, which has not moved because it shouldn't, all of a sudden goes from the dead middle to 0 while I'm at 75 miles an hour.
Oh, gosh.
And then I'm like, that's
No, what did that
weird.
do, though?
And then like 1 second later pops back up to where it should be. So I'm like, could have been a faulty wire, could have been a faulty gauge. Who knows? Like, the truck's fine. 5 minutes later, happens again, and then the truck like sputters a little bit, and I'm like, that's not normal. So I don't know cars. I call my brother Keaton. Shout out Keaton.
Hey, Keaton.
He knows more about cars, but he'll admit he doesn't know that much. But compared to me, he knows a lot about cars. He worked on them in high school and stuff. And he's like, I don't have an explanation for you, but I don't like that. So maybe pull over and, pop the hood. I completely ignore him, and it happens again, and I'm still going. So now I call Vince. Shout out Vince Gallant of Massey Brothers Garage. He's the manager there. At the time, he wasn't, but now he is. And he goes, I don't know, but pull over. I don't know, pull over. He's like, pull it over, sit there for 20 minutes, let all the oil drain back into your pan, and then check the oil. And he laughs and goes, check oil, right? And I go, yeah, the thing in the front. It's under the hood, like joking. So I get out and I pop the hood, and there is oil everywhere. Like somebody took
spit out
like
of the location,
like a garden hose, but it was oil, and someone just sprayed the inside of my hood and engine.
Yikes!
And where the engine oil cap should be, it's not there, and the cap is just 3 inches to the left, just sitting there.
Someone didn't put it back on.
They just didn't put it back on.
Oh gosh!
Okay, all the way to Atlanta and back.
Boy.
Okay.
Wow.
So I call Vince back, and he's just like, what the F?
Yeah.
Like, put a couple of quarts of oil in it, take that right to Ford, make them do a pressure test on your block. Like, he was like, who did you bring it to? I was like, I have not brought this truck to anyone but a Ford dealer. Like, the same Ford dealer, I might add you. Bought it and serviced it at the same dealer. So that's exactly what I did. And I go to the service thing, and I'm like, I don't have an appointment, and I need your manager right now. I'm like, here's a receipt for oil. I'd like $11.28. And also, and I explained everything. Now he pulls out my file, and he's like, this isn't, I don't believe you, because your last service was like 3 months ago. And then he says the thing that made me never go back. He goes, every other time this happens, the vehicle's back the next day. I was like, so how often are you guys
forgetting to put the cap on?
That this happens enough that know that vehicles come back the next day. And he goes, you must have brought it to someone different to get it serviced, and they forgot to do it. Now at this point I've lost it.
Oh, I would have lost it
because I literally in this file cabinet behind me have a folder that says F-150 with everything from day one, every service appointment, every inspection, new tires from independent company. I mean everything. Like the spray bed liner I paid for the truck, it's in there. Just because my Uncle Huey was like that, and it's been imprinted in my soul. So I look at this guy and I'm like, dude, you are literally telling an Eagle Scout who bought this truck from you, who has a record of everything, and the only reason it's been this many months is because I have another vehicle and only drive this for work. I was like, there's no way that you are not making this right. I was like, you're testing this block, and I'm going to sit here, and you're cleaning the whole thing. Put it on a lift. There's oil dripping out the bottom. Through the gears, through everything. Probably not even the gears. It's probably incorrect. I see how little I know about cars.
Did they do it?
Oh, yeah. I watched a special oil cleaning spray, and this mechanic was furious, and I was like, you could be pissed all day. Talk to your manager.
Right.
I have given you guys too much money. This will be the last time you see me. And I never went back to Ford.
Don't blame you.
And Vince at Massey Brothers, shout out Massey Brothers, he was like, I'm the manager now, man. I'll treat that truck like it's my own. I have never gone anywhere else since, and I send everybody there. Good. So, yeah, if you're in the Triangle and you need anything from an inspection to even body work, Massey Brothers on 54 or 55 or whichever one it is in Durham, call Vince. But, yeah, awesome. I won't go back to Ford, and I will not buy a Ford. And hopefully I'll have an EV truck, and it'll be the last truck I ever buy.
It's a good safety tip, too, Corb. If you break down like that, wait before you open your hood. Catch fire.
Well, also the oil that is, appropriately circulating your engine does need time to drip back down. So if you're running your car and then you immediately check your oil, it will seem empty on the dipstick, but it might not actually be empty. So I know very little about cars, but I know that much. You got to let it just kind of settle back down into the pan. What other car safety tips you got for us, Chris?
About it,
What you
Corb.
got? That's it.
Well, thank you for that because I didn't know that.
Do
So
you guys know how to change a tire?
Yes. Yeah.
And
kinda. Yes, I do.
You know how to call AAA?
Don't want to. I know how to call AAA.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've called a couple tow trucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know how to do that.
I travel with I so worried about, how long even AAA will take. I travel with a jump pack now. Like one of those ones that you can jump your own vehicle from the pack that also has, like a tire inflator and whatever. Because, I've got AAA, but, oh, yeah, we'll be there in 4 hours.
Right.
Like, I just need a jump. Man. It's like... Sometimes it's good to just have Dave's towing in your phone. Yeah. Dave's good. I like Dave's towing.
Yep,
also.
I like Dave's towing. Yeah. Shout out to Dave's towing.
Shout out to Dave's towing.
I do like them.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah. All right. Well, so if you're thinking about an EV, think about charging. If you're selling or buying land, do your frickin' homework and do not get scammed.
That's right.
But realistically, that boils down to, you need reputable agent. You need, beyond their independent reputation, you need a confidence in them.
Yeah.
You need to trust that they have, there's the obvious financial incentive for you to do your job. But you need to trust that your agent has your best interests at heart as well as they want to get paid. Like, let's be honest, nobody works for free. And then from the rental world, I mean, I don't even want to say stay off of Craigslist because I have had an amazing experience of Craigslist in my life. I have bought and sold countless amount of furniture, whatever. I even bought a used vehicle. It worked out great. So I don't want to even bash Craigslist, but you just got to be smart. You've got to do some due diligence. Don't send anybody anything sight unseen. Go take a look at it. Go walk it.
Google's your friend. Google the number. Google the address.
Yeah. Do a drive-by.
Yeah.
If you drive by a house and there's not a for rent sign, it's probably not for rent. Yeah. So if it's for rent on the internet, it might not, that's one easy giveaway, but
I think some people though people do this sight unseen. So they live out of state and they try, right? Cause they need temporary housing. And so they they can't drive past it.
Remember you guys rented Guthrie for me, sight unseen, to that lady from Detroit with her son. She did it sight unseen. She just showed up. Oh yeah, that might have been before you. That might have been Templeton.
Yeah.
So,
but either way,
it was Michael.
West,
yeah. It would have been Michael. But
and he moved on years ago to another job. But he used to be. He was you before you, Chris.
Yeah.
But he
you before you.
It was you before you. Yeah. Tell your mom. No.
Oh, that's funny.
But I remember that. That's I think the only time. And I think we were okay with that because they had no pet.
But see, you guys do credit checks and all that stuff.
Yes.
See, these scammers, they're just going to pretend, I guess, to take some information.
And this was pre-scam, too. They weren't scamming back then like they were a couple years ago. But we started putting fraud alerts in our houses.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when did it really start? When did you notice like a really noticeable uptick?
2019 was pretty bad. 2019, 2020.
Before that, though, we did have the the rental scam on our for sales. So we've been dealing with that since probably 2015.
So it's almost like they saturated it for sale, and in 2019 they were like, okay, let's go after the rentals because we're done.
I guess so.
Almost.
But
it's an oversimplification and comedic version, but.
And I'm not putting a bad plug on Craigslist. That's just where the typical scams were coming from.
Yeah.
I don't know nowadays because I still do have to go through Craigslist and I have to report it. I have to say this is a for sale, not a for rent. And, you go through that whole process and they're the only ones I've had to do that with. So think about how many websites are out there.
Yeah.
And I'm not really seeing anyone else but Craigslist. But on the flip side of that, I use it for a lot of showing the listings and stuff, the for sales
yeah.
and everything. So it is a good. I do like Craigslist.
No, like I said, I mean, I have bought and sold so many items off, and the randomest stuff. You know, like when I passed my contractor exam, I was like, well, I got 15 study books I'm never going to open again. And somebody
sell
bought them because they were taking it. I met them 5 minutes away at the Walmart parking lot. It was hilarious.
Yeah.
Like, here are all the books. I'm keeping my code book because it's my code book. Buy yourself a code book. She was like, okay, you know, but it's, I don't want to blame. I just don't want to blame Craigslist.
Right.
You know, like
no,
at the end of the day, I think it is a shame if you got taken advantage of.
Right.
But not to be like a emotionless robot, but it is your fault. Like it would be great if we lived in a world where scams didn't exist and everybody was 100% honest all the time. And, but this is the real world and we don't live in Willy Wonka's chocolate factory.
The real world. And the only thing that I say about that is I feel bad for older people because they are the ones that get hit the most. And it's because they're very vulnerable. I don't want to say vulnerable, but there are a lot of older people that they're scared. Like someone is scaring them into doing something. And that, the whole thing with jury duty. No, sorry, you didn't come to court. You were supposed to come to court. I've gotten that several times. And he sounds like a professional sheriff that calls me. I mean, I have a voicemail right now, and you would think he's a deputy, and he's telling me, just pay us $1,500, and I have a police officer friend that he helps me. I'll call him and say I just got this scam, and he'll try to find the phone number and see. But they're getting old. They're targeting people, and
that's big though? Isn't that impersonating an officer?
You know what he did? He told me So I said, well, I'll just come down to the courthouse. No, ma'am. If you come down to the courthouse, they will arrest you. And when you say something like that to me, okay, I get it. This is a scam. To someone that this doesn't, they may be by themselves. They may be just, they may be scared. Like, oh my gosh, did I not do something I was supposed to do? And they could pay. And he told me I can pay online. I can give him my credit card. I was like,
give me your credit and social security number. I'll just take care of it for you.
I mean, it was, they'll never call you and ask you. It's just like they say, the IRS, they'll never call you on the phone. And people are getting these IRS phone calls. And
those are hysterical.
It's ridiculous.
I got to admit, I'm laughing at him now. Because you get this dude, and he's like, with an hysterical, not American accent.
Yeah.
And he's like,
right.
He's like, you forgot to do whatever, and I need, $700 and something dollars or something. And I'm like, no. And he's like, okay, well, I have the
authority to arrest you.
No, he says, well, if you don't, I've got the IRS, the sheriff department on speed dial. Like, I'm ready to like cue them into this call. And I'm like, do it.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Cue them in.
It.
I got all day. Like, I just paused Netflix, and I got 4 hours before another appointment. Let's do this. You want to try?
Yeah.
Like, and now my favorite is I get, I actually want to talk to both of you about a legitimate call that I get. Well, it's probably not a legitimate call, but I get 3 times a week. Are you interested in a cash offer for your property?
Yeah.
Okay. Is this even real?
Depends. It could be. So yes, there are a lot of investors out there that are looking for a property. I had a investment property, sold it. It's been about 2 years now. Got a phone call last week, and she said, hey, I know you have this property. And she said, you text me, because I had texted her like 2 years ago. She wanted to buy the property, and I said, no, it's for, She wanted to rent it.
Oh,
It was
okay.
for
You were
sale.
like, it's for sale. I can't rent it to you.
And can't remember how it came up, but 2 years later, she's calling me, and I do think she was legit. But she is hey, I'm a cash buyer. So do you have any other properties? Like, do you have anything else? Because we're buying for cash. There are investors that are going outside of the real estate agent and calling homeowners directly.
Because I get this message. It's like, it rings. I pick up, hello, silence. Then I hear, "Doo-doo-doo." And then I hear, hello, Mr. Robert. Would you want to sell the Winburn property you have, or the Ruth Street property you have? And I'm just like, if you know enough to look me up and know everything that you just tried to scam me on, wouldn't you know I have a realtor and I do this for a living, and I would never, like, it just seems to me it's so strange that they looked up enough information, but they didn't see the clear 2 pieces of information that I'm the last person who would do that. Like, I would, if I'm going to sell anything, I am going to call you.
Well, of course, but isn't Ruth under a different name than your personal house? Are they calling for this house and that one?
Maybe it's only mine.
Because see, they could.
Yeah, maybe it's only mine because it's under my name.
Yeah,
tax records.
They're looking at tax records.
I mean, it's not hard to see the other properties are under a name and who owns that name. I mean, none of this information is that hard to find. It's all public now. But it's just furthering my point that, like, if it's all public and they could find, the 3 out of 5 pieces of information that led them to call me and use the wrong name. Let's also put Robert's my middle name.
I was going to say.
Let's just be real clear.
Yeah,
nothing proves you're a scam more than to call me Mr. Robert. Or Mr. Corbett, because Corbett's the last name. So they'll call up and be like, "Is Mr. Corbett there?" And I'll be like, "You don't know me. This is a scam. No one's called me Mr. Corbett since ever."
Yeah.
So it's just like, to me, it's like, okay, so you looked up just enough information, but if you had flipped one more piece of paper, you would be like, "Oh, this guy's a contractor. He does this for a living. We're not. This is not the right. Call his neighbor. Like, don't call him."
Yep. Exactly.
So, like, it might not be as black and white, yes or no, but like, they're not all scams, you're saying. Some of those are legit.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Some of them are legit. I have investors that will just do a lot of marketing. They'll send out mailings, or they'll find your phone number and call you and say, "Are you interested in selling your property?" Absolutely. Yeah. So there are legit people out there.
Gotcha. And
there's a lot of scams too.
It seems like there's more scams than legit people. If it wasn't, okay, maybe we'll end with this. If it wasn't a scam, you could still sell it through a realtor and get a cash deal. So is it?
Yeah.
Is there that much of a benefit or disadvantage for that matter, other than obviously you wouldn't get to do it as a realtor?
Yeah, I mean, the advantage is depends on how much they offer you for the house. Usually they're coming in low. So just remember, those phone calls that you're getting, they're investors. They're not homeowners trying to find a house. I mean, so you're going to get a lower price probably in the end. If you're thinking about selling your house, you put the house on the market and get the whole area to decide if you're going to get multiple offers. Get your highest number. You're not going to get it with the people that are calling you on the phone.
So that's really only winning if
you need
if
quick
you
cash.
really need quick cash.
Yep.
Yeah.
And there are houses out there that the people, they get an offer and they're like, "Wow, I really need that money." So and the people say, "We can close in 7 days. All you have to do is move your stuff out. You don't have to do a thing." They may take that offer. So investors are getting properties that way. Okay. But your house would not be that situation. Ideally, it would be marketable, but there are houses that aren't that the run down. They need work. Yeah. And this cash person will come in and save the day. And
Right. Okay. So that might be an example where it's not a bad idea. Is like, if you know that you have a rundown property and you're like, well, I could put this up for sale and have an open house where everybody's going to walk in and go, "What a POS," or an investor is like, "Look, I'll give you 10 grand below, but my cash is real because I'm
Right.
gonna gut this. I'm gonna gut that house,
And
so
I'll
it doesn't
close
matter.
in 7 days. You
Right.
can have your money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
People listen to that. You can
Yeah.
have your
Yeah,
money.
money does talk. That's
does.
universal. That's for sure. I mean, that's the root of all the scams that we
Yeah.
mentioned. Yeah, for sure.
Sure is.
Well, I didn't think we were going to talk about scams the whole time, but I think this was some good information. that-
I could not agree more. Scams was the last thing on my mind. I half thought we were going
Yeah.
to do a maintenance episode, and we talked about zero maintenance. So
Yeah.
tune in for the next
Next
maintenance episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that right there is a great place to end it. And I just wanted to, Chris, thank you very much. Stacy, thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Yes, thank you, Corb.
Willie Bear, thank you for gracing the studio today. Do you want to
Yes.
say anything? Bark, bark. Okay, great. We'll leave it at that. Love you, everybody, and have a good one.
All right. Take care.
Bye.